Hi everyone, Curtis here from Goth Rider Creations, and in today's episode I'm going to start work on my new workshop. Stay tuned. So yeah, today is the day. Managed to get hold of an amazing deal. Well, I say me, Mrs. Goth Rider does some amazing work, I have to say. So yeah, we've not been able to afford to do anything extravagant. Kind of looking for the right deal, and then it just came along. And yeah, I'm going to run you through the process. I've spared you a lot of the digging out and the concreting side of things because, to be bluntly honest with you, it's quite boring. No one wants to see my butt crack while I'm bent over digging out ground for hours and hours and days and days. Now, I've not done it the way you're supposed to, but I've done it so it's good enough for what I need. And as you'll see, it's not exactly the biggest shed in the world. So, without further ado, welcome to VoiceOver Land. So here we have where the shed is going to live. Now, background story to this, we moved in end of last year, and when we first viewed, there was a 20-foot by 8-foot dog kennel. It was massive. And it was going to be so simple. I was really excited. Remove a load of railings, put in some shed panels, make a door, instant workshop. I was so excited. It was one of the selling points for me personally. And then the first day we moved in, I rushed to the back door to have a look, and this is what I found. Just a pile of earth treaded down with some scaffold boards and a load of old paving slabs. So, was not best pleased. So, it's just a case of getting it clean, really. So, the main problem we have is that it is about as level as Switzerland. And unfortunately, we have a few, well, let's just say massive oak trees in the area to the back of the house. So generally it gets covered in this much rubbish. Now, the other joyous thing is whatever engineering genius installed this platform decided to put the fake grass down at quite an awful angle and then put the mound on top of it. So as you can see here, this is me with a wood saw, because it's the only thing I could find that would actually cut this stuff, and cutting away a 6-inch strip of this all the way from the edge. Now, my theory being that this platform is just long enough for the new shed. So I wanted to give an extra 6 inches of depth, and let's face it, who wouldn't like an extra bit of that? And then it would give me a little bit more space to actually access the back if ever it needs painting or repairing or anything like that. So, as you can see, it was a wonderfully fun February out there. It was actually a lot colder than it looks, but there we are, and we finally get rid of the strips of this wonderful fake grass. And yes, if Mrs. Goth Rider has her way, that's all going very shortly. So, what we're having to do is just peel away the last of all this lot, and the quite impressive amounts of sharp sand they put down. I really don't understand it. In some places it's 6 inches deep. I mean, ain't nobody got time for that. But yes, so, and the other problem we have, as you will probably see shortly, is that the furthest left hand side is kicked up way more than it should be. The right hand side where I am now is very nearly level, but the other side, it turns out, much to my dismay, that there is an exceptionally large tree stump on that far corner, and that's why they didn't bother doing anything proper. They just left it at a 20-degree angle and thought, sod it, that'll do, and just filled the whole thing with hardcore and broken bricks and glass and rubbish and a small amount of soil. So, lots of fun. So now that's me getting that scaffold board level. And here's the point where I realise I'm kind of screwed. So the main plan here was just to find a thinner piece of timber, remove what was there, get that set up. Now this was a lot more important on this project because I was filling it with concrete. If I was just putting down gravel or putting down something else, it wouldn't have been as easy. And now we cut to the semi-finished product. I wasn't going to make you guys watch me pour concrete. It was not fun. The only major issue is that I did it the way no one ever should, and that is small batches. So I didn't have access to a cement mixer until much later on, when a lovely family member turned up and went, "Why on earth, Curtis, are you doing this by hand, bit by bit? Why won't you borrow my cement mixer?" I said, "I didn't know you had a cement mixer." So yeah, you live and learn. So what I generally did was mix up a small bucket of cement at a time, run over, pour it down, tap it down, trowel it in, and then move on. So that slab you see there was completed in about 5 pours over the space of about 6 to 8 weeks. Now that is absolutely not the way it should be done, and any builder will tell you that. Now I'm not worried for a couple of reasons. One, the thickness is quite substantial. For a small pad like this, in places I went nearly 75 mil thick, which is way overkill for a small shed. Two, it's a small shed. It's not going to weigh a great deal, and even with my substantial weight, it's not going to be the end of the world. And thirdly is what I'm doing here. Now this is a product I found online. It is designed as a binder for gravel, for doing the bonded gravel driveways. It's a water-based epoxy product, and it's absolutely amazing. So what I'm doing here is I am rolling it quite thick onto the concrete, and the idea is to get any of the cracks, any of the pinholes, any of the areas where the cement didn't quite bind to the other layer. What you're supposed to do is pour it all in one go, and then that way there's no issues. It all bonds together. If you can't do that, you should be using rebar or some kind of bonding agent or actual bonding material to make sure that each individual layer sits well with the other. But this is kind of a cheating method that I came up with to be able to fill in any of the issues, and then come the winter, when we get the rain and we get the snow and we get the ice, hopefully this won't crack. So that's kind of the idea. Now the other issue as well is I do want to make this as maintenance free as possible. I don't want to be messing around with it in the future, and as much as I do try and find the quickest, easiest ways of doing things sometimes, I don't like to skimp on quality. So this was a means of me getting this done. And shortly we will come to the shed, and I figured I would let you guys know because I'm sure some of you are going to ask. We found it on Facebook Marketplace, and I say we, I mean the amazing Mrs. Gothrider. There was a gentleman who bought this shed brand new during the first lockdown, at the beginning of the first lockdown, and he didn't use it, he didn't put it up. It sat in his garage for 2 years until his wife decided she'd had enough and she actually wanted to use the garage. So she told him in no uncertain terms to get rid of it. He put it on Facebook Marketplace, and my angel jumped on the chance, messaged him, and managed to get it not only at a steal, but even got the guy to deliver it for us. So if I knew your name, I would thank you profusely. She won't tell me. But yes, so that is what is allowing us to do this on one hell of a budget. You know, boy. Yeah, Bubba. All right, boy. It's okay. So then we finally come to the, let's say, construction. Now, thankfully, I just about poured the slab long enough. I did have my concerns that I hadn't gone quite far enough, but we managed. Now, this one, despite getting it on a steel, was actually a complete kit. It came with everything, the fixings, everything. So it was a nice change. Now, I don't know, I'm sure many of you have put up small sheds and things like that, but it's actually really not complicated. Make sure you have plenty of spare screws, because they never provide enough, and get out all your tools basically. And it's as simple as just screwing everything together until it's solid. It's really, if anyone thinks it's difficult, it's not as daunting as you'd think. And apologies for the amount of flesh on show. Unfortunately, my work t-shirts are from many, many years ago and quite a few pies ago. So basically, it's not hard to do it as a one-person job. The roof can be a bit tricky on your own, and the first panel you always need some help. So here I'm just knocking off the transport lugs at the bottom that stop the base of it getting damaged. Unfortunately, this is the largest panel there, so need a bit of height to get to it. And once you've got the first corner screwed together and screwed to the base, everything else is actually pretty simple. So now I have to enlist the help of my glamorous assistant. I did try to get her to wave to the camera, and I won't repeat what she said. And here she is. The very fetching green gardening gloves were a present from me. She did actually appreciate them. Surprised me as well. So yeah, once you've got that corner screwed down, everything else is pretty plain sailing. Um, keep your drill close to hand, keep a bunch of screws in your pocket, and just start at one corner, screw the two panels together, then screw them to the floor. Then pick up the next panel, screw it to that panel, screw it to the floor. It really is adult Lego. It's really not that complicated. The only problem you get is when you get a nice gust of wind and then you wish you did have a second pair of hands. But thankfully this was a nice late spring day and it really wasn't that bad. And as you can see, here is the part where I really wish I did have a second pair of hands, because then that random gust of wind nearly took out half of the shed. Now, a bit of advice I would always give: always pre-drill your holes. I generally don't bother. I generally buy a bit more expensive screws that actually have a pilot hole end to the screw, so it drills as it goes. It's not the cheapest way of doing things, but it does save a lot of time. If you don't have the money, pilot hole everything. If you can, borrow another drill from someone else, or get the screws, the drill bits that work with an impact driver. Always pre-drill your holes, because especially with this kind of shed, the timber is pine and it does fracture very easily. So you want to pre-drill first before you get any screws in there, otherwise you're going to cause yourself a world of hurt. And now we come to the doorway, which disturbingly is the heaviest part in this panel. So you wouldn't have expected it, but the amount of bracing involved does make it very heavy. And I nearly dropped this on my foot a couple of times. But once you can manhandle it into place, you have yourselves the basis of a shed. Now, unfortunately, my battery dies not long after this, so you don't get to see me putting on the roof, but with the tripod I've got, all you would have seen is my feet anyway. And here we have it, the completed shed. It's not big, it's not clever, neither am I, but it'll do. And now it's time to insulate it. And here is what you will need. We have a roll of basically tinfoil bubble wrap, very highly recommended. We have a staple gun, staples, aluminium tape, and a craft knife. Now, I used this stuff once before, and it's very easy to put up. Literally, staple it in place, tape the edges, and you're done. It couldn't be simpler. I didn't realise that apparently this stuff is very highly insulating. According to the manufacturers, this one layer is equivalent to about 50 millimeters of foam insulation. Now, I like it because it's really easy to use and it doesn't take up a lot of space. Because obviously, you've seen the size of this thing. If I had 50 mm of insulation on each wall as well, I'd barely have enough space to walk into the thing. So it definitely helps. Now, this is not going to be as good as if it was a full-on, fully insulated, plasterboarded job. It won't be. But as long as I can keep most of the moisture out and most of the heat out, I'm going to be more than happy. Now, the two tricks that I would say, and you've seen me putting up the tape now, is do not let go of the other end of that tape. Once you start taking that backing off, if you let go of the other end, it will spiral and turn itself into a very large metal cannoli, which you cannot undo, and you will waste a lot of tape, and that stuff's not cheap. So be very careful when you unwrap it. And what I'm using, a lot of people make the mistake of using the heavy duty staple guns. Now, the timber on this thing is very thin. In places, it's only 5mm thick. So you do not want to be wasting your time with heavy duty staple guns and 10mm staples. You will just punch holes in the thing. What I use there is a tack-wise staple gun, and that is designed for upholstery use. And I always use 6mm staples. Now, they're not always easy to find. You generally have to go online to find them, or craft shops. But they are amazing. They work really well. They do not stand proud on the other side, and you can just get the insulation done in seconds. I do believe I got the roof insulation done in just about an hour, and all of the walls done in about 2 hours. So it's quite cost effective, and it does save a hell of a lot of time. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all of it, but this is an idea of what you need to do to get it right. Literally, trim it to size, staple it on, take the edges. Really couldn't be any simpler than that.
So there you have it. Could be one of two things really. Either it's a studio for podcasting about conspiracy theories. Hi Scott. Or it looks like I'm about to put 4 tons of hydroponic gear and sodium lamps in here, and I'm going to start cultivating some specialist plants. Hi to pretty much everyone I went to school with. But yeah, so that's the basics of it really. Hopefully in the next episode I can actually start paneling this thing, getting rid of all of the lovely shiny. And yeah, we've got electrics to do. Got to put the lighting in. That I'm not entirely sure because, as you can see, not a lot of head height. So yeah, that's going to be fun. But yeah, and then I can start building the workbench, hopefully somewhere here. And we've got a workshop, people. So yeah, thank you for watching this random bit of work. I'm sure many of you have seen sheds built before, have done it yourself, but hey, gets a bit more content out there. I might as well film what I'm doing. Kind of part of the reason for the channel. So yeah, if you're enjoying, please like, comment, let me know how I've done by all means. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I will be getting back on the guitar shortly. I've got a bit more to do there. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers everyone, see you later.